Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Munmun Bhattacharya. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi meets business leaders in Cyprus, terms Cyprus as gateway to Europe, points India has a stable polity and clear policies, Gift City Pact, financial UPI connectivity agreed upon. On day 2 of his Cyprus visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold bilateral talks with President of Cyprus, Nikos Christodoulidis in Nicosia. Discussions on key sectors expected, PM to get a ceremonial reception. Israel and Iran attacks continue as leaders warn of further retaliation. US hopes the two countries can strike a deal. Indian students in Iran being moved to safer places as the conflict deepens. French president touches down in Greenland in solidarity with territory eyed by Trump, says that the entire European Union is in agreement that the Danish autonomous territory is not to be sold, not to be taken. And the Indian Met Department issues yellow alert for the western parts of the country, predicts heavy rains, while Delhi is likely to experience some respite from the heat wave. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Cyprus on the first leg of his three-nation visit to Cyprus, Canada and Croatia. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on a Sunday participated in a business roundtable in Limassol, a city in Cyprus, with Cypriot President Nikos Christodoulidis, and called for strengthening bilateral cooperation in areas such as trade, investment and defence. Prime Minister, who arrived in Cyprus on Sunday, addressed business leaders from India and Cyprus at the meeting. While addressing the business meeting, Prime Minister highlighted India's stable political environment, transformative digital revolution over the past decade and opportunities for Cyprus to collaborate through initiatives like the Unified Payments Interface or UPI.
हमने ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस के साथ साथ ट्रस्ट ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस उस पर भी उतना ही बल दिया है। आज भारत में स्पष्ट नीति है, उसके साथ साथ स्टेबल पॉलिटी भी है। 6 दशकों के बाद ऐसा हुआ है कि एक ही सरकार लगातार तीसरी बार चुन करके आई है। भारत की डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड और टैलेंट से आप भली भांति परिचित हो और आपकी बातचीत में भी इसका जिक्र हुआ है। पिछले 10 वर्षों में डिजिटल रिवॉल्यूशन आया है, फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन एक मिसाल बना है। यूनिफाइड पेमेंट्स इंटरफेस यानी यूपीआई के माध्यम से आज विश्व का 50% डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शन भारत में होता है। फ्रांस जैसे कई देश इससे जुड़े हैं। साइप्रस को भी इससे जुड़ने के लिए बात चल रही है और मैं इसका स्वागत करता हूं। भारत में फ्यूचरिस्टिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के विकास में हम $100 बिलियन से अधिक का सालाना निवेश कर रहे हैं।
PM Modi also said that India believes in balancing economy and ecology and is committed to a clean and green future. He also welcomed the Cyprus Stock Exchange NSE agreement to invest in Gujarat's Gift City.
भारत इकोनॉमी और इकोलॉजी के बैलेंस में विश्वास करता है और उस पर हम प्रतिबद्ध हैं। एक क्लीन और ग्रीन फ्यूचर का रास्ता बना रहा है। 2030 तक हम 500 गीगावाट रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी के टारगेट को और बहुत तेजी से आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। ग्रीन शिपिंग के विकास और 2030 तक रेलवे को 100% कार्बन न्यूट्रल बनाने को और तेजी से काम कर रहे हैं। एआई मिशन, क्वांटम मिशन, सेमीकंडक्टर मिशन, क्रिटिकल मिनरल मिशन, न्यूक्लियर पावर मिशन हमारी ग्रोथ इंजन के नए इंजन बन रहे हैं। मुझे जानकर खुशी है कि साइप्रस की स्टॉक एक्सचेंज और एनएसई ने मेरे होम स्टेट गुजरात में गिफ्ट सिटी में सहयोग पर सहमति बनाई है।
NSE CEO Ashish Chauhan, while speaking about the business meeting with PM Narendra Modi, mentioned that out of the many MOUs signed between the two countries, the most important MOU signed is the one between Cyprus Stock Exchange and NSE, which not only highlights relations between India and Cyprus on the political level, but also on the business level.
One of the more significant MOUs is the collaboration between the GIFT City NSE International Exchange, which is an international finance service center, and the Cyprus, which itself has emerged as a financial service center, to do dual listing, get European companies to list on both exchanges, do research, and also do joint development on many products. So it's a great occasion that Honorable Prime Minister himself has decided to visit Cyprus and increase on a broad brush basis the relationship between two countries, not only on political level but also on business levels.
Following the business roundtable with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, business leaders praised the strengthening India-Cyprus relations and said the event highlighted the potential for investment and trade between the two nations, with a focus on sectors such as financial technology or fintech, technology and renewable energy.
When you get such political support from the Prime Minister himself, I think that's very exciting. I think we have a very old history that we have with the Hellenic world, between India and Greece and Cyprus, which goes back thousands of years. You know, we've seen coins from Greece which have been discovered in India. We have Indian trade with them. So I think the trade is very ancient, and I think now that we have such a great, I would say, focus and impetus given by our Prime Minister, I think trade and business will only grow and increase.
As a bank, we want to promote the idea that Cyprus and Greece could become gateways of Indian companies which want to do business in Europe. We have signed an MOU with NPCI to enable UPI in Cyprus. We have also done the same thing for Greece. And Eurobank is opening a rep office in Mumbai to promote the business between the three countries. We have applied for that in RBI, and hopefully before year end, we should celebrate the opening of our office in Mumbai.
We are presenting 32 opportunities for doing trades, and 4 of them are strategic MOUs that have been signed, which will lead to development, capital market, investor interest, benefit both the countries. The 32 deals that we are talking about is across pharma. We're talking about diamond industry, real estate, industries, financial markets. So it's very interesting phase that we are getting into.
Prime Minister Modi's visit to Cyprus is a great honor, and it's very important for us as we position Cyprus as a hub between the EU, Middle East and the East. We're at the eastern frontier of the European Union, and Cyprus is the base for many Western companies investing into India, but also is the gateway for many companies from the Middle East and from the East who want to access the European market. And we want to align ourselves with India's ambitions in this regard.
Later, Prime Minister Modi shared on social media platform X, and I quote, "Boosting business linkages, President Nikos Christodoulidis and I interacted with leading CEOs in order to add vigor to commercial linkages between India and Cyprus. Sectors like innovation, energy, technology and more offer immense potential. I also talked about India's reform trajectory in the last decade." On Monday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold formal bilateral talks with President Christodoulidis in Nicosia. Discussions are expected to cover key areas such as trade, investment, education, digital cooperation and regional security. DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh reports.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting the Mediterranean island nation of Cyprus. Day 2 of the visit will lay the stage for more formal engagements. The day will begin with a ceremonial welcome for Prime Minister Modi at the Presidential Palace in Nicosia, that's the capital of Cyprus. Thereafter, the two leaders, Prime Minister of India and President of Cyprus, will hold delegation-level talks. Gamut of issues that the leaders will be looking at: trade, investment, technology, innovation, the ways to boost people-to-people connect and ties. There are a host of issues of international geopolitical importance in which the two nations converge in a very significant manner. Also, thereafter, Prime Minister would be visiting an important historic center in the municipality of Nicosia. The place holds great significance for the locals in Nicosia and people in Cyprus at large. One of the final engagements for Prime Minister in Cyprus would be a special banquet hosted in his honor by President of Cyprus. Thereafter, Prime Minister Narendra Modi would be en route to Canada, the second leg of his three-nation visit, to attend the G7 summit. With camera person Yogesh, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in Cyprus.
Updates on the Ahmedabad plane crash now. A total of 80 victims of the tragic plane crash have been identified so far through DNA matching, including former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani. Of these, the bodies of 33 victims have been handed over respectfully to the relatives. The victims whose mortal remains were handed over were from Ahmedabad, Vadodara, Kheda, Botad and other places. A large team of forensic experts have been working to identify bodies of those killed in one of the worst aviation disasters in India by matching DNA with samples collected from their relatives. The last rites of former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani, who lost his life in the tragic plane crash on the 12th of June, will be performed on Monday. The state funeral of former Gujarat Chief Minister will be held with full state honours in Rajkot. The state government has also declared a one-day state mourning in his memory. The body of the former Chief Minister was confirmed after DNA testing. Moving on to the western Indian state of Maharashtra, where 4 people died and over 50 were injured when an old narrow bridge over the river Indrayani in Pune district collapsed on Sunday. Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has announced that the state government will provide a financial assistance of 500,000 to the families of those who lost their lives in the bridge collapse incident. Additionally, the state government will also bear the cost for the medical treatment of the injured. Meanwhile, the damaged section of the bridge had been removed from the river by late night while the search and rescue operations are on. Further investigation into the cause of the collapse is still ongoing. The bridge, which was around 30 years old, connected nearby villages and was a common route for locals and tourists. The multinational peacekeeping exercise Khan Quest 2025 is underway in Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia. Hosted by the Mongolian Armed Forces in partnership with the US Indo-Pacific Command, the exercise brings together military contingents from 24 countries to enhance interoperability and refine peacekeeping skills under the United Nations mandate. Khan Quest aims to promote military-to-military cooperation, mutual learning and multinational coordination in peacekeeping operations. The exercise includes a range of training activities focused on UN peacekeeping operations in conflict-prone zones and civil-military coordination in humanitarian operations. India's participation highlights its rich experience in UN peacekeeping operations and reflects its glowing and growing strategic partnership with Mongolia. The India Met Department issued weather alerts for the western parts of the country. Warning of heavier downpours have been issued. The Weather Department sounded a yellow alert for Mumbai, forecasting heavy showers at isolated places, and an orange alert for neighbouring districts, which are expected to receive heavy to very heavy rainfall. A yellow warning of a thunderstorm, lightning and gusty winds with speed of 40 to 60 kilometers per hour has been issued at isolated places in Himachal Pradesh's Chamba, Kangra, Kullu, Mandi, Shimla, Solan and Sirmaur districts till Wednesday. The southwest monsoon is likely to arrive in Jharkhand between the 17th and the 19th of June with forecasts for widespread rainfall during the period. A yellow alert for heavy rainfall has been issued for Monday in some pockets of southwest and central parts of the state. Delhi is likely to experience some respite from the heat wave as no heat wave conditions have been forecast. Temperatures are expected to range between 35 degrees Celsius and 41 degrees Celsius during the day. Skies will remain partly cloudy to generally cloudy in fact throughout the week. Light to moderate rain, thunderstorms and lightning are likely on most days. Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. World leaders start arriving in Canada for the G7 summit in the mountain town of Kanasnikas. Asian markets and oil prices climb as a new conflict between Israel and Iran shows no signs of cooling. Armand Duplantis achieves career-defining milestone in Stockholm Diamond League. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. World leaders began arriving in Canada for the G7 summit for a three-day gathering in the mountain town of Kananaskis. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney had designed an agenda aimed at minimizing disagreements within the Group of Seven club, which has countries that is Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and the United States. Carney says his priorities are strengthening peace and security, building critical mineral supply chains and creating jobs. But issues such as US tariffs and the conflicts in West Asia and Ukraine are expected to feature heavily during the summit. Trump has praised Israel's strikes, noting it used US weapons. European powers have been cautious and refrained from criticizing Israel. Trump is visiting Canada despite his mockery of the United States' northern neighbor, which he has said would be better off as the 51st state of the United States. The ongoing Ukraine-Russia conflict will also be up for discussion in the G7. Leaders who are not part of the G7 but have been invited to the summit by Carney include the heads of state of India, Ukraine, Brazil, South Africa, South Korea, Australia, Mexico and the UAE. Ukraine's Zelensky is also taking part. As summit host, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has decided to abandon the annual practice of issuing a joint statement or communique at the end of the meeting. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said New Delhi is eager to represent the global south on the world stage, acting as a bridge between different countries.
We've been an outreach country in the G7 for many years, and I think it brings benefits to the G7. So in this case, you could see clearly there was a keenness to have us there. India, to my mind, is has got a particular value, especially in recent years, that we have the ability to work with different countries in a way without making any relationship exclusive.
In an interview to news agency AFP, the minister said that India had been in favor of direct talks between Russia and Ukraine to end the conflict since 2022. He also said that sanctions such as those against President Vladimir Putin's government did not work.
We do believe that there has to be dialogue, there has to be diplomacy. And if there is diplomacy, the parties concerned need to talk to each other directly, because that was not always the case before. We don't think a solution will come from the battlefield. We think eventually people have to sit on the table and negotiate this. So we very much support the idea of negotiations and direct negotiations.
The Israeli military said early morning on Monday in fact, that it struck surface-to-surface missile sites in Iran, its latest move in 3 days of escalating conflict between the rival states. Earlier, Iran launched a new barrage at Israel on Sunday evening with an explosion seen in the coastal city of Haifa. Israel said it began another series of strikes on military targets across Iran amid international pleas for diplomacy and de-escalation. Air warning sirens were activated in multiple areas across northern, southern and central Israel, as well as in the occupied Golan Heights, sending residents to shelters. Loud explosions were heard in Tel Aviv and other cities also. The current escalation was triggered by Israel's deadly surprise strike targeting nuclear facilities across Iran on Friday. The attack killed dozens of senior military officials, nuclear scientists and civilians in Iran, and triggered retaliatory missile and drone attacks in Israel. US President Donald Trump said on Sunday that he hopes Israel and Iran can broker a deal, but said sometimes countries have to fight it out first. Talking to reporters as he left for the G7 summit in Canada, Trump said that the US will continue to support the defense of Israel, but declined to say if he asked the US ally to pause strikes on Iran. Trump also rejected a plan by Israel to kill Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens. But sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
During an interview with Fox News, Netanyahu did not directly confirm or deny a report that Trump had vetoed a plan to kill the Ayatollah. The government of India working diligently to move some of its Indian students to safer places within Iran. Ministry of External Affairs said in a statement that the Indian embassy in Tehran is continuously monitoring the security situation and engaging Indian students in Iran to ensure their safety. Earlier, advisories urged all Indian nationals and persons of Indian origin to remain vigilant. French President Emmanuel Macron warned that Greenland is not to be sold or not to be taken during his official visit to the autonomous Danish territory coveted by President Trump. Macron visited a Danish military frigate and surveyed the impact of climate change on a Greenlandic glacier with scientists from a climate research center. Macron strongly opposed Donald Trump's idea of taking over Greenland. In a press conference alongside Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen and Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen, Macron said the island was threatened by predatory ambition and that its situation was a wake-up call for all Europeans. Macron is the first foreign leader to visit Greenland since Trump's explicit threats to get the island and was invited by the Prime Ministers of Greenland and Denmark. On to business news now. Asian markets kept their nerves on Monday and oil prices climbed anew as the conflict between Israel and Iran showed no sign of cooling, adding geopolitical uncertainty to the world's economic troubles in a week packed with central bank meetings. The escalation came just as a group of 7 leaders were gathering in Canada with US President Donald Trump's tariffs already straining ties. Yet there was no sign of panic among investors, with currency markets calm and Wall Street stock futures steadying after an early dip. Oil did add 2% to last week's 13% surge in an inflationary pulse that, if sustained, should make the Federal Reserve even less likely to cut interest rates when it meets on Wednesday. In currency markets, the dollar firmed 0.3% in the Japanese yen, while the euro dipped 0.1%. The spike in oil prices is a negative for the yen and euro at the margin, as both Japan and the EU are major importers of energy, while the United States is a net exporter. In sports news, Sweden's Armand Duplantis soared 6.28 meters to break the world pole vault record for the 12th time and set a new world best mark at the Diamond League event in Stockholm. The American-born double Olympic champion improved on his previous record by 1 centimeter on his first attempt, making the most of the perfect conditions to delight the home crowd. Just moments later, the 25-year-old once again made it look easy and soared to another world record as the stadium exploded in jubilation. Duplantis sprinted from the landing mat, tearing off his singlet to celebrate his first world record set on the Swedish soil. That's all in this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. This is Munun Bhattacharya from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.